Sweet. Well, we just got live discount, so. All right, let's start because I know time is precious and we all want to get back to our homes and we haven't already had dinner. But first of all, I'd just like to welcome you all here to the Pukete Neighbourhood House. I do have the distinct honour of being a manager here, and I also have, I'm not sure if it's the honour or maybe the task, privilege of hosting this event here this evening. You may have heard that the event is being streamed live on our Facebook channel for those of us at home, but it does mean once you leave here this evening, you can go back and you can re-watch it if you forgot any of the answers. We're going to put our candidates to the test a little bit with the yes or no questions, which will obviously be recorded forever in history. So take that as you will. Before we get started around how this evening is going to run, I'll just do a little bit of the housekeeping. If for any reason this evening we do have to evacuate, we're going to evacuate just the door behind Tamati and Melissa there. And we will exit to the sand court. You can't see it behind those curtains, but once we get up there, it's the biggest sand pit in the world. You'll easily see it. If you do need to use the bathroom facilities tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go down the passageway. We're going to skip the toilets, the first set of toilets we get to, preferably take it in your own hands, those are our children's toilets, and then we'll move forward further down to the ones with the changing facilities, and there are accessible facilities there for those that require it. Right. Yeah.
You said it's on your
on our Facebook page. Yes.
Facebook.
So Pukete Neighbourhood House. If you go on Pukete Neighbourhood House on Facebook, you will find it. Great question. Just assuming the way right. Here are sort of the ground rules for how this evening is going to work. Each of our ward candidates, those standing in the west and on the Māori electorate, will have 2 minutes speaking time. You will hear a bell that will chime at the 30-second mark, and then a final bell at the conclusion of your 2 minutes. Then we will move to our mayoral candidates. One is just entered, and they will have a 3 minutes speaking time. And the same thing, mayoral candidates, is you will hear the bell at 30 seconds, and then the final bell will toll at 3 minutes. Okay, then we will move into the yes or no, which is the red and green discs you have in your hands. The frisbees, as you phrased and called them just before. There is no orange. Thank you. There is no orange. Some were creative last week around how we sit in a sort of yes and a no camp. We try and draw them on a bit of a position, either yes or no. So listen to them, take it in. And then we will move to the pre-submitted questions, which are questions submitted by our community. Look, we've got full house here tonight, so that's great on this side of the room. I will warn those candidates that were here last week that it looks like the questions from this group are a little bit trickier than the ones from the group last week. So it'll be interesting to see. I see a couple of faces that were here at both events, so it'll be interesting to see, and likewise on this side of the room. Before we get started, I know we're all rearing to go. I just want to pass apologies on for Lachlan Coleman, Jose Gonzalez, and Michael West, who will not be with us. I was going to give apologies for our mayoral candidates that were earlier debate and engagement, Paula included, but also Jeff and Ricky, if they are intending to drive, they may arrive later. But that is all I have. I do have a statement from Jose, which I'll read at the conclusion of all of our ward candidates before we move into the mayoral. Likewise on Tuesday, Michelle McDonald, standing for Regional Council, she is here this evening, and the same as I did last week, given the absenteeism and the apologies, I've afforded Michelle the speaking rights as well. I'm sure no one will begrudge her of that. If there is anyone else in the room that is standing for Regional Council, forgive my apologies. You can know about on this side to that side. I did this sitting at the time. do a yes or a no, and you can just join in. Okay, we'll get started. Like I said, we are live streaming on Facebook this evening. The green spot on the carpet out here is where you will best vantage point for the camera to see you, as well as address the audience.
Because I'm standing for Mayor and for Hamilton City, Hamilton East Council, I'll get 2 terms.
Just the one? And that's the same for all of our candidates that are standing in both the mayoralty and the ward. Is you will just speak in the mayoralty one. All right. Okay. Good question, Jack. Thank you. Right. Let's start with Louise.
Oh, okay. Can you remind me where you said the crosswalk?
It's down here. I know it's in front of people, but I've got to apologize to people. Just the size of the room.
Has the recording started? Because I can't find it on your Facebook page.
It's okay, Scott. You can wait till after me.
All right. You go, Louise. We'll start the timer. 2 minutes there.
No England, Ireland, Wales, the Orkney Islands, or Pukete, he tangata te reti aho, ko kirikiriro toku kainga e mai nei, ko Louise Hutt toko ingoa. My name is Louise Hutt, and I'm running for Hamilton West. I've spent the past 3 years working in our communities. I'm chairperson of GUICO, which is the largest sustainability organisation in the Waikato, and happens to run a little food waste rescue program called Kaivolution. Now, Pukete Neighbourhood House are one of our distributors of Kaivolution, and I know the difference that it makes to our communities. This is good food that would otherwise go to landfill, that's redistributed back out into the community. And it also supports the nearly 50% of Hamilton who earn less than $30,000 a year. I'm also a senior advisor at the Waikato PhD, so I know what it's like working through a crisis, and I also know what it's like to work through government reform through my work in the COVID-19 response. I started off as a vaccination manager, and once again, I know Pukete House has helped us reach 96% vaccination rate in Hamilton. Hamilton City Council needs collaborative, thoughtful leadership that will help us get through the times we're experiencing. Climate action has only become more urgent in the past 3 years, and climate change, we're living through it. Hamilton City Council themselves have said that business as usual will not cut it anymore. And for too long, we've not been investing in the well-being of our city. We need to ensure that everybody has the opportunity for a high quality of life, whether you're 8 years old or 80. I'm standing for climate action and a well-designed, vibrant, accessible city. Kia ora. Do I get extra points for being under time?
Sure.
Fake points.
Good. You don't mind. Thank you, Louise. Sanjay.
Kia ora. Good evening, everybody. I'm Sanjay. I'm a pharmacist working for last 27 years in Norton. And what I'm going to do is what people have been asking me over there. And I believe councillor's first responsibility is listen to your own circumference of 5 kilometers, what people want, and do it. Unfortunately, it has not done so far, so I thought of running for the council. I believe that there may be 1,000 problems, but there are 10,000 solutions. And if you are not part of the solution, you are part of a problem. To give an example, I believe that medicines can only treat the disease, but that's not a sign of wellness. And that's why I started yoga in Western Community Center, again free of charge, totally voluntary, which requires, of course, more dedication, which is unfortunately lacking. So I started with laughter yoga. Come once a week, enjoy yourself, at the same time get the benefits of yoga, tai chi and so on. We all have seen what young people do on TV every day. I said I'll find some solution. So my solution is I'm starting a junior chess club in Norton, Western Community Center. If you have any child, grandchild, please send to my junior chess club. My firm belief is if we keep our children busy doing intellectual smart things, they won't doing things what we don't want them to do. Now, are the problems, other problems not here? They are. For example, climate change and so on, what have been told to us. But I'm going to take only one problem, for only 15 seconds. Housing crisis. I feel we have a lot of solutions. The current solution is not acceptable. What we need to do is that first find out those offices where people are working from home. You use part of those faculties for developing an apartment block. That's one possibility. Second possibility, thank you very much. I'm sorry. We will talk when we are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. I love the dedication into the Val, mate. Thank you. And you will. Here's right afterwards. We have provided a little space for a mix and meal. Unfortunately, no scones tonight.
Oh.
I tried.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Couldn't possibly have scones Tuesday. Right? Angela.
Thank you. Look, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for coming out. It's freezing outside. I think it's a southwesterly, so it's great that you're all here. Thank you to Scott and Jane. I'm Angela Leary, standing for re-election in the West Ward, and I want to shout out to my esteemed colleague, Councillor Martin Gallagher, who is retiring. We had a wonderful event last week. I've been a councillor for 15 years. I love my job. I love representing you, and it's an honour to serve you. I've been Chair of Infrastructure and Operations Committee, so that's all the really hardcore, tangible stuff. That's the three waters, that's roading, that's biking and micromobility. It's all the stuff that we build our communities on. For anyone that actually follows my Facebook page, it's a really exciting night tonight, because tomorrow a huge plan that we've spent over 3 years on, called the Biking and Micromobility Plan, goes to NZTA Waka Kotahi tomorrow to the board, and that could result in considerable funding. We're talking hopefully tens of millions of dollars for the city. So my role is about infrastructure, and it's the high level strategic stuff. In I think it's about 25 years, Hamilton City is projected our growth to increase by 100,000 people. So this council, particularly this term, have been laying the foundation for that. So look, I'm not going to take up all of the time. I'll leave that for the other candidates. I actually do, I haven't spoken to Mishwala about this, but I met her through this campaign, and she's attended all of the meetings and stands for the regional council, and I've been really impressed with her. So I do hope that you also vote for the regional council candidates. She certainly has my vote. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope, look forward to some robust questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Emma.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Emma Pike toka wingwa. My name is Emma Pike, and I'm standing in the West Ward of the City Council. Hamilton is at the heart of who I am. I'm a local girl. I went to Henry Primary, Melbourne Intermediate, and Hamilton Girls High School. After that, I studied business at Wintec. I've also worked across the city, including at Waikato Regional Council and also at Parliamentary Services. I've co-owned a business, and I also own a residential property in Hamilton West. As such, I have a strong grassroots interest in policy and politics, and I also understand how it affects our community. I have a strong vision for Hamilton Kirikiriroa. My three policies are around stronger, proactive community engagement. I think it's really important that we engage in our communities and give them the opportunity to directly feed back into council and council process and decisions. Secondly, I will increase scrutiny on how ratepayers' money is spent. Our council is currently $499 million in debt, and it's a really challenging place to start. And I just think we need to look at how we're spending our money and spend smarter. Thirdly, I will champion transparency within the council and make sure that any promises we're making that we hold. Overall, my experience in business management and community engagement will ensure that I'm a strong advocate for you, for the people in Hamilton, and I really hope I can have your support in being a councillor. Thank you very much.
Ricky, if you want to swap on the end here. And some cheers. Look at this, packed house, eh? Goodness out about how good last week was.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, I am. Shanti, please.
Kia ora. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming this cold night. It's windy outside, isn't it? But I think it is a winter we can expect. I've been here for a while. I'm born here, but I'm married to a husband. He passed away 5.5 years ago. So then I thought, what am I going to do? I can't sit home all the time and do nothing. Otherwise, I'll probably end up somewhere I suppose not to. So I take action. But I've been busy in the community over 2 decades with the Western Community Centre, and then with the aged concern with the elderly, and then with the refugees family. They come from overseas. I help them to settle down here. And then neighborhood sport we just started a couple of years ago, and that's where I'm aiming to take more time, how to deal with your neighbors. And as I said, that looking after the people and spending time with them, and that is now is my stuff. And I am mother and grandmother. I work in the farm milking cows, and then I had my own two businesses, 3 businesses actually. There were lunch bars in my life. And so, I know how to look after myself and my people. And I think you all are my people because, I rely on you. And I just spend my time, it's my time to spend with you. It's just like I'm spending my time. I enjoy it very much. And everyone has a problem, housing and everything else. I think I know because the refugees come and they have to stay in the hotels. And there's a $700 to $800 rent they have to pay. But, we're getting there. Okay, so I think I'll finish on that one. My time is up. And I hope you will realize that, my time is with you guys, with the community. Thank you from Hamilton West.
Kia ora, Shanti. Matthew, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Small, and I'm proud to be one of your West Ward City Council candidates this year. Now, there are 3 things that I'll work hard and advocate for if I'm elected around the council table, and that's investing in community spaces, accessibility for all, and no significant rate increases. Now, accessibility is something I'm very passionate about. I work as a supported living facilitator, mental health and disability support. So whenever I'm walking around the city, and I see the state of our footpaths, they're an utter disgrace, really. So we need to improve safety, but we also need to be more efficient for the ratepayer. So when we are upgrading the footpaths, we should be debating, is that tree fit for purpose anymore? And if it's not, then we should get rid of it, because we don't want to come back in 5 to 10 years' time to upgrade the footpath. Again, that's not good for the ratepayer. I'm proud to be part of neighbourhood support, and last Sunday we actually had our first community barbecue in Pukete. And the best thing about that was we had neighbours talking to each other for the first time. So that's the kind of community spirit that I want to bring to council, and teaming up with neighbourhood support. More about accessibility, I think it's important that we upgrade playgrounds around the city. But we should aim to have at least one piece of equipment that's accessible for everyone. Now, I've worked as a disability support worker since 2013, and I just want to acknowledge the current council for what they're doing with Clauden's Park now. 80% of the children that I've worked with, they've just had to sit there and not play on the playground at Clauden's Park. Now they'll be able to. So that's one of my goals, if elected, to have at least one piece of equipment for our playgrounds. Think big, vote small, number 1.
Good, Matt.
Wingwa, and I'm running for the West Ward. So just a little bit about myself. I have a background in mathematics and physics, and I'm currently studying a Master's of Environmental Planning at the University of Waikato. So that means that I'm bringing a bit of a different perspective than some of the other candidates in terms of analytical and socioeconomic, a combination of those two things. I'm also working part-time at the Department of Conservation, and I'm the youngest candidate in this election at 22 years old. And I'm really excited to get young people more involved in our city politics. So my three main priorities for this campaign have been around transport, so making sure that we're all able to get around the city in ways that are safe, sustainable, and convenient, whether that's by bicycle, by walking, by bus, by car. I'm also really interested in housing, so making sure that we enable the housing that we need for the growth that we know is coming for the city. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, around taking action for climate change. That is the, I think, key thing in the next 10 to 20 years. This is the greatest existential threat of our time, and we need to make sure that we're prepared. I think these three things go together really well. I like to think of it as Russian nesting dolls, that they all contribute and affect one another. For instance, 60% of our city emissions come from transport, so we have a huge amount of potential in that space. So our city is changing, and I'm really excited for the change that's coming. I want to be around the decision-making table because I think that I can bring something with my unique perspective as a student, as a young person, as a cyclist. I'm really passionate about the city, and I want to bring my perspective in an evidence-based approach. So I don't need your number one vote. Number 1, 2, or 3 is fine. Melissa Smith for the West Ward, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And just before we get to our next speaker, just thank you guys so far for sticking really tight to that time frame. It makes my job a lot easier. Dan, please.
Kia ora, thank you everybody for being here tonight. I'm really honoured to stand in front of you here as a West Ward candidate. A little bit about myself. I currently work in an community engagement role, but previous to that I come through retail, hospitality management, and I come from the events industry, so I know how to have a good time. I'll briefly touch on my priorities, but I think there's something a lot more pressing in the room which none of the previous speakers before me have touched on. My priorities going into this campaign is CBD revitalisation, parks and recreation, and that's about the accessibility, and having a connected city so you can go from A to B with these, and that includes our northern suburbs. But the biggest pressing issue, I believe, for this community is right on our doorstep here we have Te Awa the Base, and we've all seen the disgusting actions that have happened over there with criminals going in there thinking that they can do whatever they like in the middle of the day. I think community safety is a massive concern for all residents in Hamilton currently. I have had the privilege of being a part of the North Hamilton Community Patrol for more than 3 years, and that includes looking after the Pukete area. Actually, if you're out at midnight, 1 o'clock on Friday night, you'll find me around here. That's been a pressing issue, looking after community safety and what's happening in our city currently. If elected into council, I want to see how the current city safe model is working, because quite frankly, the conversations I've had with residents and business owners in the community, it ain't working. We need to find solutions with police, and we need to work collaboratively to ensure that we have a Hamilton that we can be proud of, and you can bring your families up and retire and live a good life. I must acknowledge the work that Paula Southgate, our mayor, has done, and our current council, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the community safety space. Thank you so much for having me. I don't want to blab for the sake of blabbing, but that's a little bit about me, and I'll be happy to have a few more questions afterwards, and I'm sure I'll have some flyers. No, I actually won't have flyers because they're in my other car. Kia ora.
Good, Dan. Bang on, mate. Roger, please.
I'm Roger Stratford. I'm standing for the West Ward. Every cloud has a silver lining. We've heard about the Ram Raiders tackling the jeweller stores and the shopping centres. Well, that's going to do a good chance for revitalisation of the CBD, because that'll bring the jewellers over to the CBD where their stores will be better protected. Okay, so that's a bit of an icebreaker there. Now, climate reform. Now, I understand we have some fair weather cyclists, fair weather climate change reformists here, because one of our councillors identified as she, her, insists on taking a car when it's wet and she wants to wear a dress. The only way to solve the climate change problem is through supporting the family. That's the only way. There's no other way of doing it. I like to talk about my councillors, the candidates in the East Ward, and I see we have an East Ward candidate here. Now, the Economic Development Committee Chair wants to build a super hub in the Waikato Innovation Centre. This is going to create a 10th city, which is going to create a great division between the rich and the poor. We're going to have lots and lots of homeless people here in the city, and you should be taking note of this, Peter. The Community Economic Development Committee Chair purports to support the homeless shelter, but if he's going to divide the city into two, the rich and the poor, by creating a 10th city, similar to what they have in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, it's not very good look. I come to you with my hat in hand and ask for your vote, please.
Good work sticking to the time. Sarah, please. And because those who joined us a little bit after, the green cross there is your best vantage point for social media this evening.
Okay, thank you. Kia ora, good evening. I'm Sarah Thompson. I'm currently a Hamilton City Councillor for the West Ward and very pleased to be standing for re-election. And firstly, apologies for my lateness this morning. I also have a 2.5-year-old at home, and so there's a bit of a juggling going on with some of these evening candidate events. So I live here with my husband and my son Leo, and I've been really honoured to work with fantastic colleagues around the table over this last 3 years, and we've worked on some really exciting initiatives and projects, particularly around transport. So we've, Chair Angela and I in the Infrastructure Committee have been working on making it safer for our kids to bike and walk to school. We've just kicked off a school travel planning project. We've been working on improving accessibility for our disabled members within the community, which is something that both of us are very passionate about, and we have just kicked off work on a disability strategy. And we're also, as Angela mentioned, working on options, better options and safer options for cycling and also public transport, so people have choices for getting around. Another area I've been very passionate about has been looking after gullies and working with members of the community, volunteers, to restore Hamilton's very unique and special gullies and green spaces like Waiwhakariki. And finally, something that I'm very determined this term to work hard on is creating neighbourhoods we can be proud of. We need housing, we need affordable housing, and we're seeing a lot of intensification, and we need to put in infrastructure to support that. So that means having well-maintained footpaths, as Matt mentioned, having street trees, playgrounds and green spaces that families can access. We need neighbourhoods where people love to live. Kia ora, I'm Sarah for Hamilton West. Thank you.
Well done, Sarah. Ewan.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it on a cold night. Scott, Jane, thanks for organising it. Please excuse my back for the next minute or so. I'm Ewan Wilson, and I'm a current City Councillor asking for your support to be re-elected. But my area of primary focus has been economic development. I'm Deputy Chair of Economic Development and Chair of Hearings and Engagement. Look, I think this city, a city I am very proud to live in and that I love, is at a critical crossroads. The reality is we are facing considerable debt. And what makes that even worse is that we're borrowing to pay the electricity bill. Not all debt is bad. Some debt that is intergenerational is appropriately managed in capital debt, where we've got to learn to cut our cloth with our operational costs. And that's something I'll continue to focus on and try to get right. I also think we're at a crossroads where at the next election, there will be at least 6 new city councillors due to retirements and the introduction of the Murray Wards. That's a wonderful opportunity for new blood and new ideas, but it has to be supported with some experience around the table. We have a tidal wave of legislative change. We have multiple issues concerning our long-term spending structure and our growth strategy, all of which we can work our way through, but we need the balance of experience and need. I guess for the last 3 years, I've really enjoyed looking after and focusing on the governance side of Te Hui, the new rail connection through to Auckland. We've worked hard at making sure that we've got it through to the Strand, and we've worked hard to add Purnui to the station option so you can now connect to Auckland's airport. We've got more work to do, and I'd really appreciate the opportunity to complete that task. So I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
8 seconds to spare. Dehindra, you just made it in just in time for your 2 minutes, mate. So Dehindra, come and stand up, and we'll start the clock, my friend.
Okay.
Yeah. The X marks the spot tonight because we're going live on Facebook, so you can look at our lovely audience and down the barrel of the camera at the same time.
Thank you. My name is Virendra Kumar Naresh. I'm standing for the West Side. My background is that I originate from Fiji, been in New Zealand since 1989, and I have contributed quite significantly to the community of was appointed as Justice of the Peace in 2003, and currently I'm still serving as Justice of the Peace. And due to my commitment to the community, I was ordered a city board by the City Council in 2017 for the services I did for the community. And being a person for the people, whatever I'd like to do is that I want to work with the people in the council so that the transparency and the confidence of the councillors is there for the people of Hamilton. Nevertheless, number 1 for the Thank you.
There's just one other candidate who gave his apologies, but he did provide a written statement, so I'm just going to read that verbatim. You can time me if you want, but I don't like it off the
Stand on the ground.
Stand on I'm timing off show. Jose Gonzalez, who unfortunately is probably hopefully watching us live, but he'll watch it later. Kia ora, hello, hola, my name is Jose Gonzalez. 29-year-old candidate for the Hamilton West Ward. My apologies that I couldn't attend tonight, but I have contracted COVID-19. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn if you want to learn more about me. I'm a proud Chilean and New Zealand citizen and have lived in Hamilton for over a decade. I want to make our city a great place to live, where families and future generations can have an even better quality of life. I'm standing for a city that embraces diversity, supports its youth, provides affordable and accessible transport, acts on climate change, and has fair rates for council services. We need leadership that combines what has worked well and innovative thinking moving forward. This approach will get the best results for our community. This is how I will represent you. For the last 5 years, I have worked in local government, leading and delivering the Te Hui train service. My council experience and passion for our community makes me the ideal person to lead our city in the challenging times ahead. Sincerely, Jose. Okay, that brings us to the end of our West Ward councillors, and with Dehindra's arrival, the official count is one better than last week, so well done on this side. This side smashed it, well done. So, we have got more. Yeah, I reckon. What we'll do, we'll go to the Māori Ward. and then we'll go to Mishwela, and then we will jump across to our mayoral candidates, which now I think we have 4 in the room, which is a great turnout. So apart from Donna, who's standing in the mayoralty, the only other one from our Māori ward is Tamati. No, sorry. Mātai. My apologies, I'm reading the wrong name. I get 2 minutes.
Kia ora tātou. Mihi tuatahi ki ngā tūpuna o tēnei whenua. Mihi anō ki te wāhina, anō ki te kingi Māori. Greetings everyone, my name is Mātai Ariki. I'm standing for the 2 seats in this election called Kirikiri Roa Māori Ward. I'll be standing, and I acknowledge Donna in the room. Donna's another candidate. There's 6 candidates that are standing. If I was to be voted into the council, I would firstly acknowledge to vote for us, the Māori ward. You have to be on the Māori electorate, Hauraki Waikato, and you must also be registered as a resident of Hamilton City Council. So no one else can vote unless you have those criteria. So my first obligation would be to the voters that put us into council. I have a passion for education. I've been sitting on school boards for some time now. All schools that are Māori schools are okay. The kids are surviving. 80% of our tamariki are in mainstream, and there's a lot of improvement needs to happen so that they get good quality education, and they'll take their place like everyone else in the country. I love the Education Act 2020. It speaks about children. No matter who you are, you have the right to seek an education at a level that you choose to, in a safe environment. And it also honours Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the relationship with Māori and Crown. And also for Māori to be able to achieve within a comfortable equity, so that we have under the Tiriti o Waitangi, that will be treated the same as everybody else. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora Mātai, and please accept my apologies for pronouncing the name. We're getting it really wrong then. Okay, so Susan Donna, who will talk shortly in the mayoral candidates, that's our only candidate from our Māori wards. So, at the top of the hour, I mentioned that we do have Mishwela here standing for Regional Council, not originally on the list, but due to the absenteeism, afforded the speaking rights. So Mishwela, your 2 minutes can begin now once you hit that green spot.
Kia ora. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for sharing your evening with us. The Regional Council doesn't often have an opportunity to speak to the community, so I really appreciate this opportunity, Scott and Jane, and for you being here to meet with you. So you've probably never heard of a candidate called Mishwela before. It's pronounced exactly as it's written, Mesh-Way-La MacDonald, and I'm standing for the Regional Council. Now, I was born in Northland, but don't hold that against me. I got here as fast as I could. I have 3 businesses in Hamilton with my husband, and we have 3 little boys. And I was educated up at our university, and I have degrees in law and management. Now, for the past 3 years, I have worked at the Regional Council in the youth space, developing a region-wide youth forum, because the Regional Council doesn't often hear from our young people. So that was one way of being able to connect young people's ideas with council and council's ideas with young people, and it's been a really exciting space to work in. But it also means that I understand how the organisation works. You've never actually had a candidate who's been on staff before that's actually running for Regional Council, so that's a new thing for our community. Now, in terms of what is important to me, and I hope is important to you, is to clean up our river. So the current regional plan will have our river cleaned by 2096. Now, at that rate, we are all going to be compost, and my children will be in their 80s. So I think we can do better than that. I also would like, as families, we all have to live in our means, and I think the Regional Council should live by the same priorities. When they want to do something new, they need to reprioritise what they already have instead of just putting the rates up. Because we need to keep Hamilton affordable. So I'm standing for the Regional Council to make sure that they play their role, that they do their bit to make sure that the well-being of Hamilton citizens and our region is supported today and into the future. Kia ora, I'm Michelle McDonald.
Kia ora, Michelle, thank you. Right, we're going to move to our mayoral candidate section of the evening. So you lovely folk are going to have an extra minute, so that's 3 minutes, okay? The bell will chime at the 30-second mark, just as it did for your colleagues around you, and then again at the conclusion of that 3 minutes. Okay? You don't have to use the full 3 minutes, but you're more than welcome to. Okay, Jack, please.
Jack Gillen, standing for Mayoralty and Hamilton East Council. I'm a pastor, counsellor, community worker. I run a suicide prevention trust and Families for Justice. I'm also a social worker. Free policies, responsible spending, business development, community inclusion. Transparent administration is very important to me. Better public transport, accessibility for the disabled, promoting the interfaith movement. Now, I went along to the New Zealand Property Council meetings this evening, and I thought I was going to have to protest, but I didn't. And I actually had a placard buying off mayoral stooges, shutting out alternative candidates and media. The council and councillors are looking after corporates, not citizens, denying democracy and community people power. And I brought up youth crime, that they need to deal with that, empower youth to change, housing requirements, affordable housing, and multicultural participation. There were about 5 topics that did come up. The call for hard decisions, and that was brought out by Jeff. Also, they need to report weekly in the paper what's going on. They haven't done that. Open transparency with the developers. Now, apparently there's secret clauses that they didn't divulge to us. Team playing. Apparently, when they do a deal with central government, they don't take the whole team. The mayor hasn't done that. And did you realise that the rates are going to pay off workers? So are the rates, I was a bit confused with $1 million going to pay off council workers. Is it really about rates for services? Is it really about the community? I am a team player. I will ask the hard questions and I'll deal with the problems. And I'll bring about transformation to the council, because I believe in open, transparent meetings, nothing hidden, because apparently there have been some secret agendas that you haven't known about. That will all change when I become mayor, or you can also vote for me for standing for council, because I believe in transparent administration, open meetings, public audits, and business grants. Responsible spending, which means there will be no debt, we'll have to deal with the debt or find ways of dealing with it. Business development, called in a whole number of businesses and I've found that they're not happy with the high overheads, and we need to partner to bring about change there. And community inclusion, but was it community inclusion when they were trying to shut out a number of the voices, some of the mayors, even my dear sister wasn't invited. So we need to be open, have open, transparent meetings and be honest before the public, and I can promise that. Jack Gillen for Mayor, Jack Gillen for Hamilton City Council.
Hang on for 3 minutes, Jack. Ricky, please.
This will help me stay for that 3 minutes. Kia ora tātou. I'm Ricky Manarangi, and I'm standing out of a sense of responsibility. Standing for council out of a sense of responsibility. Our city is growing rapidly, so it needs someone who can navigate council internally. Having worked for council managing the policy and bylaw space for 4 years, I understand how the machine actually works on the inside, exactly who to go to get things done, and have spent plenty of time in council's chamber where all the decisions are made. Our city and workforce is continuing to become more diverse every year. I'm your candidate who can walk in 3 spaces, and I say that as a proud Māori, Pacifica and Pukete. Central government is pushing a significant amount of changes on councils. I believe a double master's degree in both law and strategic management empowers me to navigate these changes adequately to make informed decisions. I'm a proud Hamiltonian, having lived in the East Ward for the past 20 years, so I know from a personal perspective firsthand the benefits and opportunities in our community, as well as which communities to engage on relevant matters. I was formerly the Deputy Chair of the Chamber of Commerce and currently the Deputy Chair of the New Zealand Shareholders Association, Trustee, Single Parent Services, and Chair of Birthright New Zealand, as well as a past President and Board Member of many organisations locally and nationally. Beyond this governance experience, which is obviously important in Council, partnerships with these organisations and others are crucial to bringing a community together for the betterment of our city. But beyond all of this, I believe the political system as we know it is on its knees. It's running out of steam. The voter turnout is currently less than 1/3 of that in our previous cycles, which speaks volumes to me. It says that people feel their voices are not being heard. Well, I want to change that. I think the time is to do things differently, and I believe technology needs to play a part. So what I'm proposing is I put forward a well-informed and reasoned perspective of my own, some of which we can talk about, no doubt, later on in the evening, including tackling crime and other things like business enablement and community groups. But then empower you, the community, to tell me if I've got it wrong. As who am I to say that I know better than a community which has elected me to represent them? I believe now is more crucial than ever that we need smart leadership at Council, and I look forward to sharing some of my thoughts with you later in the evening. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Smashing it on the time today, tonight. Donna, please.
Aue te ariki, aue ko wai au ko tana Pukete Phillips ahau, he uri no tainui tuwharito taranaki hoki ahau. I am Donna Phillips, Pukete Phillips, and I hail from Tainui, from Tuwharito, and from Taranaki. I'm a mother of 5 and a grandmother, and they are my wife. I am fighting for a future for them. I live in the older, poorer suburbs of Norton, and this council decommissioned our park. Now, we talk about crime, and the obvious default is bringing in more police, but let's think about that. Let's think about what these youth are doing and why they're doing this. A lot of these young Māori or Pacifica children, they do not have a home to call their own. They are homeless in the true sense of the word. You don't have to be sleeping under under a bridge or in a car to be homeless. You could be couch surfing. So why don't we start off with creating a social housing program? That is very important. If we want to sort out crime, let's house them first. Let's create opportunities for them and create employment, and housing does that. We know that Michael Savage housing program in the late 30s, early 40s created, and I'm a beneficiary of his policies by being brought up in a Māori Affairs home. But there are policies, and it's not just a central government issue, it's also a local government issue. It's a community issue to house our people. It's an indictment really. We have 1,500 homeless whānau here in the Waikato, and our leadership in council want to sell our civic building. Why don't we look at changing our civic building or something of that magnitude, like prioritise our assets and look at putting social housing there right on top of the list. Also, we're creating communities of haves and have-nots. My children who have represented New Zealand, have represented their province and their iwi, did that because they had access to sporting arenas and sporting fields. You go over to Norton where me and my family have been living for nearly 20 years. There's no arena there for our children. You've got 2, 3, 4 children living in the homes that are situated in Norton. Let's create a community that we can be proud of. Let's look at these issues, and I'm the type of person that will bring these issues to the table and hold our leaders accountable. I'm a fearless leader. Vote for me as Mayor, and I'll do the job for you. Kia ora mai tata.
Paula, please. Nah, you were good.
That's the perils of being tall, you can have your head cut off quite easily. Good evening everyone, thank you for coming out. This is my third candidate meeting today in addition to my day job, so bear with me if I'm a little bit lumpy and rusty because I'm actually quite tired. But look, I believe now more than ever in these really difficult times that we're facing with so many big decisions and changes, that it's important to have a positive and stable leadership for the city. So I'm asking for your support to stand as mayor again for a further term. And it really isn't about me, it's about the team. And I have some of my team with me today. And each and every one of the team that is here has added great value by working to their passion and their skills. And that's what you want a man to enable, to allow other clever, capable people to do what they're good at. And so I just want to spend some time to acknowledge the work that all my colleagues have done in their spaces. And I particularly want to acknowledge, I know I'm taking up some of my time, but I think it's really important that we acknowledge and salute Martin Gallagher for his 21 years of local service to council. And you know, we can disagree on different decisions along the way in life, and that's politics, but you wouldn't have found a stronger, more hard-working advocate than Martin, so I acknowledge that. There are a number of key issues, and I won't have time to canvass them all tonight, for sure, but I'll just hit on a couple because they're pertinent, but I'll invite you to ask me questions about the rest. I'm going to talk a little bit about crime, a little bit about transport, and a little bit about reform. First of all, crime is a big issue, and of course every time that there is another smash and grab, or a ram raid, or a big high-profile burglary, it raises the anxiety of the community. So you can imagine how sad I was and frustrated when on Friday and Saturday we had more. But I am working as hard as I can. Council doesn't have a magic wand to fix this, so we can't. We're just one player in the whole game. It needs a whole community response. But I have worked with Minister Hipkins. I have put together a crime safety task force with the police, with the Crime Science Division of the university, with Waikato Tainery, and with City Safe, to talk with the wider community about how we all play a part in addressing crime. And in fact, tomorrow I have another meeting. I've had one, and I'm following up with the Minister tomorrow to find out what government is going to do to help Hamilton out, because we need urgent help. Transport, I just want to say, I get a bit tired of it. It's car versus bike versus bus. It isn't about that. It's about having a transport system that services the need of all people. And it's safe and accessible and easy to use. The last thing I want to comment on, because it gets raised, is Three Waters and reform. In this past 3 years, reform has come out as like a freight train. Never before in my 21 years of experience have I seen such change. But I just want to clarify, can I just finish the one sentence?
Finish one sentence. In honour of Mark.
In honour of Just one, look, we have pushed back hard on reform, and just one thing I would say is absolutely every single councillor, including myself, opposed to the Three Waters bill. We did try and influence it in the early days. We did try and work with government to get a better arrangement. That failed to deliver enough results, and we unanimously voted against it. We also pushed back on government about the intensification in our suburbs. So we are having a strong voice in Wellington. Please support me to continue to be a positive and strong advocate for Hamilton over the next 3 years with a good team around me.
Okay, really quickly before we move to the next section, I'm just going to dash around the room and hand our famous ring discs to those candidates who just Everyone's got discs? Cool. Okay, that brings us to all the sort of introductions. We've now met our lovely, I think it's 18 different candidates across all different wards, 2 different councils. And so thank you for that. Thank you for sticking so well to our time. We're going to move to the next part of the evening, which is the yes or no. So all of our candidates have a red and a green disc. Red is no, green is yes. We're going to ask them a whole series of yes or no questions. We're going to try and draw them on a position. They'll either raise red for no or green for yes. They are different to the questions we had last week, and there are some that we would, because that's important. Now, A couple of little ground rules from this side is that there will be likely candidates on this side of the room whose opinions differ from yours. And that's okay, that's democracy. All we ask on this side of the room is we just allow them the space to answer their questions and that we don't interrupt or yell over the top. There will be, like I said, a time after all of the questions have been asked where you can actually speak with all of our lovely candidates directly, and I know a lot of them are accessible through Facebook, social media, on the phone, email, and things like that. Okay? We'll do the yes or no's, and then we'll get into the really meaty questions, which are all the questions that you've submitted prior to this evening or as you arrived this evening. We're good? We'll race through these pretty quick because we really just want them to show us what they're thinking. Now, as is so far the standard, being the second time we've done it, we start off with an easy one, just to test if they know the difference between yes or no and red and green. I know traffic lights have been drilled into us, but there is no orange, and I used that joke on Tuesday, but I'm going to use it again. Okay? So easy one. Do you like coriander? All of those with a green, you are wrong. No. Hey?
It's very divisive.
Yeah, very divisive. Probably more so than the pineapple on pizza. Yeah, it was nice with them. Okay, here we go. Is water reform needed throughout New Zealand? Is water reform needed throughout New Zealand? Yes or no?
In some form.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned, I'm just saying, in general, is water reform, I know it's a political hot topic, in general, is water reform needed? Yeah, we got it?
What we've got.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit orange. Yeah. That's how it's going to work. Okay. Simple question, difficult answer, right? Is our current water infrastructure fit for purpose? As it currently sits, is our water infrastructure fit for purpose? Will it be fit for purpose in 10 years' time? Current, as it sits now. In 10 years' time.
Do you mean like with change?
So.
No.
Okay, so the first part of the question is our current water infrastructure, as it currently sits today, fit for purpose? Yes. If we fast forward 10 years down, if we fast forward 10 years into the future, and we do not make any changes to our water infrastructure, is it still fit for purpose?
What's wrong with the three waters proposed?
I will address some of the three water stuff in the next section, sir, okay? Should we turn the way our city faces to better include our river?
Private sector should pay for it.
All right, here we go. The question 4, do you support co-governments with mana whenua? Here we go. Historically, some councillors have been accused of being invisible within their communities. Do you believe you have been or will be, if elected, visible in our community? Yes. You're on to it. You want to enter a few of these before. Oh. Here we go. Are you a member of or are you closely associated with a registered political party? Thank you. The money we plan to spend on gully restoration, should this solely be the responsibility of the regional council?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
So the money that we as a Hamilton City Council, plan to spend on gully restoration, should this solely be the responsibility of the regional councils?
Take it off our, she's going to take it off our books.
All right. Moving on. Moving on. Hamilton is a very diverse city. Would you like to have seen more people from our disabled community stand for election this year? Here we go. Question 9. And if Councillor Bunting is watching at home, apologise for you, but do we need a dome over the outdoor pool at Waterworld? days. Here we go. Do you believe that all council staff should be paid at a minimum the living wage? Thank you. Currently, do you believe the Hamilton City Council sufficiently supports our arts community? All right. Some divided opinions across the room. That's why we do these questions. Here we go. Do you think council needs to include more community voice when making big decisions that impact our city? All right. Are you interested in holding in-depth conversation and consultation on the changing of Hamilton's name? I can, yep. Are you interested in holding in-depth conversation and consultation on the changing of Hamilton's name? Yeah? Yep. Okay. The new regional theatre, is this a win for our city? Here we go. Okay. Sarah, you'll like this one maybe. Paying for parking at Hamilton Gardens? Yes or no? So, green for paying for parking at the gardens.
For locals or?
Question as it reads, paying for parking at Hamilton Gardens, yes or no? There's a second part to the question. I'm being a little bit defiant there. Charging an entrance fee for non-Hamilton residents.
To the themed garden?
To the themed gardens, yes. It's fine. It's fine. That's the reason I asked these questions, try and draw a little bit of controversy. It did take me a while to come up with 15 questions. That was okay. We're going to get into the next set of questions. These have come from members of our community. Some of them I've sort of taken a little bit of creative license with, because some of them are yes or no questions. And what we will do in that instance is simply do the red and the green paddle, so do hold on to them. There is a question in here which from one of you who wanted to specifically address that to Paula and Jeff. Given that Jeff isn't with us this evening, I'll just ask Paula to answer that. And then there's a follow-up for all the candidates to respond with a yes or no follow-up to that. And then we will just work our way through it. The first question is from a gentleman who was here on Tuesday, and I think I see him in the room this evening. I'm going to read this verbatim, and then I'm going to probably ask Angela to answer, because the question is more about what is currently happening at the moment, and in your role in Chair of Infrastructure and Operations, she's probably best placed to answer the question. As I read through it, it'll sort of start to make sense. So, in the transport plan, what is going to be the safety provisions for footpaths? Now, my observation is that footpaths are becoming dangerous with scooters and electric bikes using them along with pedestrians. Then further on is, why are cyclists and scooter riders not obligated to wear crash helmets? And then following on, this gentleman's observation that entrances from many properties don't allow the driver of the car to see who is using the footpath until it's too late, especially at the speed the scooters are travelling. So there's sort of a
There's three questions. I'll be as concise as possible. So the first one was about quality of footpaths.
No, sorry. The first one was what safety provisions are our footpaths if e-scooters and the like will be using those footpaths, and the safety provisions for pedestrians using those in a shared sort of footpath with e-scooters, for instance.
Okay, so in the last LTP, we ratcheted up the budget over the next 10 years for the quality of footpaths so that e-scooters, mobility scooters and pedestrians would be safer. So we did turn the dial up on that. The issue is if we turn it up just a fraction, if we go past what the level of service we've got now, it's another $40 million, because the city is really big and it's ageing. With our review of Access Hamilton, we have flipped things around. Instead of being focusing just on roads and cars and transport, we are putting pedestrians and people first. That is about shared footpaths, that's about better quality footpaths, that's about wider footpaths. We absolutely acknowledge that mobility users, as the population ages, more people are going to be walking. So there is a high priority for that one. What's the...
Why are cyclists and scooter riders, or are cyclists and scooter riders obligated to wear crash helmets?
So cyclists are, I'm looking at all the cyclists in the room. Scooter riders aren't, but I think, well, actually Neuron have pulled out of the city. They were giving scooter riders helmets, but yeah. But cyclists are supposed to. I think the police are too busy to. Yeah, yeah. They're silly not to.
Okay, and then
the last one.
And then the last thing, that last thing being called out here. Last question, especially the other way around. This gentleman observes that entrances from many properties don't allow the driver of the car to see who is using the footpath while it's too late, especially at the speed the scooters are travelling. I'm not sure if there's really a question there, but is there anything that's on
I mean, there is a question there, and it is a perennial problem. The only really thing we can do is educate drivers. And actually today, the Mayor and myself signed off a letter to our Minister around a national campaign for cycling. You know, remember on TV we've seen ghost chips and some of those really big national campaigns about driver safety, don't drink and drive and don't speed. There's nothing about pulling out of your driveway, look for cyclists, look for pedestrians. So as a council, we're going to really lobby hard for that. Cool. Yeah.
Thank you. So like I said, I will try and unpack your questions as best I can, and in places I take a little bit of creative license, but I hope that you get the answers you're looking for, and likewise, if you don't, I do encourage you to stay around and talk with those candidates directly, because I know there'll be different opinions and different things like that, but I just felt that question was best set with Angela.
Can I talk briefly to that question as well? Like just the first part?
I'm going to carry on through the questions, and so yeah, unfortunately, because then I probably do have to offer that opportunity to all the candidates in the interest of fairness, but I'm sure, whoever the person is in this room, I'm sure he would love to catch up with you afterwards. I'm not going to reveal who it is, I'll let him do that. Okay, okay, this one's a yes or no. This is for all of our candidates. Now, you knew she had to come up, found the stair, okay? But this sort of question goes a little bit further, okay? And so we have to think of probably a little bit further down the track. Now, it was mentioned in this question, the person who asked this question did talk about it. It was mentioned last week. There is a report that council are waiting on to make some further decisions on some of our community facilities. However, if we do decide that we may, or in that decision-making process, sorry, I'll rephrase that. In that decision-making process, would you be interested in opening up for public consultation on founders? Yes or no? Yeah.
Say, could you just in the back, could you hold them up a bit higher? Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate the trickiness of that question. It involves a little bit of sort of, I guess, hypothetical thinking or situations like that. So I appreciate the puzzled look on some of your faces. If elected, would you be interested in, I guess, strengthening or looking at a youth engagement strategy around how we can engage youth more or better with our elected members? Green. Yeah. Majority green. All right. Thank you. And once again, if elected, would you be willing to work with social students within our city on the social issues that our city faces? I'm not sure what that working relationship looks like, but would you be open to working with social working students? There we go. Unanimous decision. All right. Hopefully those answered those ones. Okay. The next one is for, I'm going to just pull out a couple of things out, pull a couple of people out of the hat, and we'll go, I don't know, 30 seconds, so real. Alright? Real, because I'm going to try and get through moving so we can get a voice. We're going to start with Ewan, and the question is, and it's been the same for everyone that I pinpoint in the next little while, is how do we increase voter turnout?
Hang on, Ewan.
Come on, Adam Tyler.
I think it starts with education. I'd be really keen to ensure that in our secondary schools we start to explain really clearly what we do in local government and how important it is to participate. And I think we haven't done that well, and we need to do that better. We also need to move towards a digital voting platform once we get the security concerns resolved.
Thank you.
Well done, Ewan. I've now found it.
Dan, same question for you, Dan. We're going to keep going, 30 seconds on it. Same question for you, Dan. How do we increase voter turnout? 30 seconds.
Really simple, we need to teach civics in school and lower the voting age to 16.
Yeah, I like that quick step. Emma Pike, how do we increase voter turnout?
I actually agree with Ewan and Dan that it starts with civic education, and it's proven to work in other countries across the world that if we lower the voting age and then they create that habit and understand why they're voting and the changes they can make and the importance of politics, I think that's how we're going to change.
Thank you. Martai, how do we increase voter turnout?
That was the first speaker. Down at the school at lower age.
Alright, next question, and I'll do a sort of a selection as well. We're going to start with Donna. Donna, how do you see the relationship between local government and central government? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'll put it
down.
I think it's an important relationship. As I said earlier with the housing problem, it's not just a local government problem, it's a local and central government and community problem. I also believe that we should be creating community boards that will help to bring the community into the decision-making process. So, you know, I'm looking across that way and across this way, and it's really important that we engage more areas. Kia ora.
Thank you. Louise, same question. How do you see the relationship between local government and central government?
So this year there was a cyclist killed in Hamilton, and that intersection where they were killed was tagged for upgrading next year. And the reason it was tagged for next year was because we needed Waka Kotahi funding. So the relationship between us and central government is critical because it can save people's lives as simply as that. So we have to work collaboratively. We have to acknowledge the relationship that we can't do things by ourselves. And I don't know if you know this, but local government only exists because of the Local Government Act.
Thank you. Ricky, same question. How do you see the relationship between local government and
Work in
central
progress. Obviously, you're seeing at the moment there's a strip of our localism. I think that central government overstepping the mark. They're suggesting what we need to do with our water assets, and they're underpaying us for that. Steering right ahead with that, and also we're seeing that with housing intensification. I believe that we need to build up, particularly across the central city, but in terms of building up everywhere across the city, that doesn't make too much sense to me. Cool.
One more. Kahindra, how do you see the relationship between local government and central government?
Well, I think the local government and central government, they should have a relationship, but at the same time, the local government should have certain areas where they can make a decision with their own people, because the parameters, every city is different. So the council should be determining themselves what is right for them to move on.
Thank you. All right. The next one, I think a little bit of a show of hands. I know we asked it before. I just need to identify, because this question is specifically for you, those that are associated with central government parties or things like that. So sorry, I just need to see who are members of central government parties. Okay, cool, thank you. Right. This question is for those who have indicated that they are, and will be 30 seconds on the clock. So I'm going to read it out, and then we'll just fire through those that we are. So we'll start with Ricky's end, we'll work our way down that line and then cycle back through that way. How does being part of that political party, e.g. Labour, National, benefit our local community? Whereas an elected Hamilton City Councillor, where does your allegiance lie? The community that you represent or the political party at the central government level? Especially if you have signed a document pledging support to that party. So we'll start with Ricky, 30 seconds. Where as elected member does your allegiance lie when it comes to national and local politics, I guess?
I'm transparent. I'm a registered member of the National Party. It's a recent thing. I feel now more than ever compelled to actually be a part of that decision-making, the conversations, that political party. My own particular perspective, until the National Party are paying any of the bills, in terms of this campaign, I don't subscribe to any of those views for the purposes of local government. I'm here as an independent. We have nothing to do with each other.
Cool, thank you. Dan?
Yeah, kia ora. I've been a member of the New Zealand Labour Party for 12 years, and it's based on my beliefs and my values. A candidate for council, I'm running as an independent. I'm not being endorsed or supported or have any official affiliation with any political party, but I still have values and beliefs which need to be respected as anyone does, and so this is why I'm very open about it.
Kia ora, Dan. Sorry, so 30 seconds on the clock. I think it was Roger next in the line.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm an independent, although I'm a member of a political party. I've already received complaints from the political party. I basically tear the piece of paper up, but I say what I want to say, but in terms of, we've got Gaurav Sharma here. Now, that's what comes between choosing the wrong candidate to stand for Parliament. I've been trying to stand for Parliament for 15 years. Now, I've offered both major political parties, National and Labour, and until they find the action, then we won't see a decent member of Parliament to become a minister in this city.
Thank you, Roger. Moving on, Donna.
Kia ora anō. So I'm the co-leader of the Outdoors and Freedom Party, and that suits the values as me as a Māori in regards to kaitiakitanga and protecting papatūānuku. So for me, it's about clean, fresh water versus pollution. So that plays into the awa, protecting our awa and ensuring that it's there for future generations. I think that I'm open, transparent. You go to my Facebook, I'm open, transparent about that. The media's written about me. So you can come and ask me questions because I've run out of time. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Donna. Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, the New Zealand First Party, they believe in centrist policies about family, education, health, and also citizens' referenda, deciding the voice of the people, what the people want. I'm also into democratic assemblies, like hearing the voice of the people, where people come together and they decide on an initiative, so we accurately represent where the community is coming from. So community involvement and community representation is vital to me.
Thank you. And we're jumping to the second row now. Matthew?
I'm a member of the National Party, but I never want to be associated with a political party when it comes to council. I'll always stand as an independent. I do not want to be dictated by any political party, because if we look at the housing intensification changes, both political parties have agreed to it, and they were both wrong decisions.
Thank you. Moving down. Emma?
Kia ora. I am a member of a political party, but I think it's important that we are independent, and I'm standing as an independent. I'm not affiliated or endorsed by any national parties, and I think that that's important so that we can get your voice without being as
Which party?
That's
Which party?
I don't have to say. If someone wants to ask me directly, they can.
Louise?
Okay, I'll answer. So I have done paid work for both the Labour Party and the Green Party, and I've been a Green Party member since the night Donald Trump was elected. I really wanted to do something. I felt really horrified by global politics, and that seemed like a really good way of doing something about it. I'm also very honest about my political views. But something I appreciate about the Green Party, I'm not sure if you watched the news lately with the co-leader election, but members of the Green Party have a lot of say in how the Green Party is run, and I really appreciate having a say in central politics, because obviously I care a lot about politics.
Cool. Thank you, Louise. And I don't believe there's anyone else remaining in that line. Thank you very much for those. Interesting question from the floor. Now, the next question, we're going to go 30 seconds as well. This question is directed only at those seeking to be elected to council, I guess, for the first time. So not for those amongst us that are seeking re-election. Okay? I'll read the question. We'll start with Martai down the end. We'll run through in the 30 seconds and then we'll snake back around in at the Hindra. Alright, climate change initiatives and support are to be commended, but the city needs other equally as important skills and leadership. What other skills can you, the candidates, bring to the council? 30 seconds, we'll start from Martin.
To represent the voters who put you there, and the status of mana whenua, and there's about 6 groups that are attached to the Hamilton Council to do with Te Ao Māori, that the voters that come in and vote for us in our electorate come from what we call mana whenua, the people with the authority of the land historically, and the other one, mātawaka, the people who come from out of the Hamilton City tribal to represent them.
Good, Martin. Ricky?
I've got to cover these off in my introduction. So obviously worked in council for 4 years, in charge of the bylaws and policies, background in law and strategic management, living in the community. I think that's one of the best sort of skill sets you can have for 20 years. And also, proudly Māori Pacifica and Api Awa in those few spaces.
Thank you. Melissa?
Would you be able to just repeat the question? Because
Yep.
I didn't understand the combination with climate change.
I was just sort of a statement that
Okay.
that climate change initiatives and support are commended.
Yeah.
However, the city does need other equally as important skills and leadership. And what other skills can you bring to the council?
Yeah. I think I bring a strong technical experience, so I have a strong analytical background because I managed to get a degree in physics, so that's not easy. I also bring my perspective, so I think I bring a different perspective from some of the people behind me as a young person, as a cyclist, as a student, actually as a queer person as well. I bring a strong ability. I have, I'm a student, so I read a lot of papers. I have to do lots of references, so I am following an evidence-based approach and a strong ability to listen.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I kind of covered that at the start as well, but I've been asked to run for council for the last year by various different people across the city, and I always thought it was something I'd never be able to do, but look, here I am. Basically, my whole point of standing was to help the city come back from, all the years of COVID, lockdowns and whatnot we've been through, to help our city go back into the recovery stage. My background is in the hospitality retail industries, which suffered hugely, as well as the events industry, so to bring some life back to the city. But in saying that, my current role I've been doing for 3.5 years in community engagement. So I've engaged with the community for the last 3.5 years and have an understanding of what's required and what's needed. Also have experience in both local and central government, so
Shanti?
kia ora.
Thank you.
My idea is to get the people opinion first. We always decided, like councillors, they all get together and they sit on the table and don't tell anybody to do that. I think government does the same. But the thing is, if you are the people and we're working for you. So whatever you say, we listen, and that's what we'll do. If we do it wrong, then you will say, hey, why did you do that? So that's what we're here for. And that is me.
Thank you, Shanti. Roger?
I went to a co-ed school. A lot of the councillors here went to single-sex schools, and that's brought about an arrogant style of leadership in this council. And we have too many Hilton Boys High, old boys, and we need to. One of my proudest moments in the year was to be, speaking to the council, was to be thanked by Dame Catherine Healy from Prostitutes Collective when I was speaking up for women's rights with regard to the prostitution bylaw reform.
Thank you, Roger. Moving on, Donna.
Kia ora anō. I hold a Masters in Law, so I've gone from the onion patch to the legal patch. I've gone from a condom factory to the corporate boardroom. So I know how to transform a community. I've transformed my own whānau, so I know how to walk the talk. Most of my children have 2 or more degrees or trades. You know, that's something I'm really proud of. My husband followed in my footsteps. He has 2 degrees in business. We've run businesses. We've run a transport company and we've run a consultancy firm. So I know how to transform.
Kia ora, Jack.
I've got administration skills, work with suicide prevention and families for justice, social worker skills, I've done a course at the Wānanga, multicultural skills, understanding all people with the Theosophical Society, the Buddhist, the Muslim, the Christian, and also working with art, because I've played guitar and done a bit of comedy and this sort of thing. I understand and love working with youth and society.
Thank you, Jack. Michelle.
So I believe that I have a unique set of skills because I've worked in community engagement for the last 3 years. So instead of council dictating how youth should set up and engage with council, they get handed the design tool over to young people and let them design it. I'm also a mother, so I know how difficult it is to raise a family, keeping things affordable and making everything work. Also as a business owner, know how hard it's been for the last 3 years for those who stayed in business, and it's been a struggle. Also educated in law and management, so I bring that combination of skills. I've lived in China for 4 years and speak Mandarin, so I know what it's like to live in a country where you can't read the signs and that kind of thing, so thank you.
Oh, Michelle, Sanjay.
You know, I'm a pharmacist, and my idea of wellness is not just treating disease, so I'm going to bring that perspective in my working. Particularly, I'll be very, very keen on running our community centers like these, and of course, our Western community centers. Bring them to life with a lot of input in terms of wellness, all the activities. I'm totally against spending any more money of taxpayers' money on building new big structures, but using the existing community centers for our wellness. Thank you.
Max.
Since the 2019 election, I've gone back to study, and I actually graduated today, getting a certificate in mental health and addiction support work. So I work as a supported living facilitator. Part of my role is working with people in emergency accommodation. So I've actually had an insight. So we have a housing crisis at the moment, and we need to get housing in the city. I'll also work collaboratively with anyone that's around the council table. I think you need to work as a team. That's why I don't go around promising you things. So I might not be able to deliver it.
Doing good, Emma.
Kia ora. Not only do I have over 25 years experience as a member of the community in Hamilton West out of my 35 years, but I've also co-owned a beekeeping business. I have worked in senior management roles. I have managed over 500 staff in a company. I have worked in local government and in central government, and I believe I have the balanced experience to make Hamilton a better city.
Good, Emma, Louise. All right, Louise, here we go. Here we go.
I have a very interesting CV, so please come talk to me about it later. I have a master's degree from the university, so believe me when I say I like reading research and I like reading reports, which is a lot of what council is. Going through does a lot of environmental work, but as chairperson, that's a governance role, so very similar to what council does in that regard. If you remember me from last election, I actually worked in electricity and ran an electricity business, so I know what it's like to provide core services and what, I guess, the liabilities are if that core service goes out. So,
thank you. Mahindra.
Well, I've done commerce in Fiji, and then after that, I traveled the whole of the South Pacific doing export work. And later, I was the youngest expatriate being stationed in Vanuatu for 2.5 years as a branch manager. So transforming people who are older than me to adapt the way I wanted them to do things. So it was easier enough for me to get them to do do the things the way I wanted to. At the same time, when I came back to New Zealand, I did my NZC over here, so did a lot of community service over here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That was a good one. I appreciate the quickness of the We've got the final sort of question here from the group. Now, these questions were originally, like I said, addressed to both Paula and Jeff. Jeff is not with us, so Paula will answer. We'll give her 30 seconds to give verbal response, and then from the group, we'll do a yes or no as a way of sort of showing your position on that same topic. So there's two, so we'll do one, and then we'll do the second. So I'll read this as it's on my paper, and I'll let you interpret it as you may. Are you willing to support the provision and funding of community halls and services in suburban areas subject to the housing intensification? 2, help keep our youth engaged and off the streets, like kung fu, boxing, and other sporting, cultural, or arts activities. Ensure the older communities stay well connected, e.g. Tai Chi classes, housing, other art activities, and promote activities to ensure pride in these communities, such as environmental planting, street cleanups, etc.
That's quite a confusing question. There's a lot in it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can unpick that. First of all, I think community...
We'll go to 40 seconds.
Thank you. First of all, community spaces are really important. Community houses like this one and those others spread across the city that provide services to the community, and we should definitely be supporting them more. I know you've got plans here, but so some of the other centres as well. So in that respect, and there was something about intensification of housing.
Yes, I'll read that the top part, probably the question. Are you willing to support the provision and funding of community halls and services in suburban areas subject to the housing intensification?
So is that asking me whether I want to give community a voice on intensification? Because yes, we do.
And I'd say, yeah, probably the second part is in those communities, rather than filling it full of houses, are we going to also put some community facilities in there as well?
I think the penny's dropped for me, thank you. Yes, absolutely, that's exactly what we're doing with the Fairfield Enderley project, where we're working with Te Whare o Te Ata, Fairfield Hall, and we've rejuvenated that already. In part, and we're working with Papa Nui Enderley House or Te Mokai o Te Hapari to rejuvenate that, and we need to be looking into other centres too.
All right.
Communities need space, that's my short answer.
So on that note, yes or no paddles, are we putting community facilities in those areas where that housing is sort of going to take over, not just filling it full of houses? Yes or no? Look at that, unanimous. Okay. The next question it's very considered, so I'll read it again. Yep. We'll do the 40 seconds as well, and then we'll just try and unpack it sort of similar to what we just done. This person appreciates there's a lot of controversy over Three Waters, particularly where councils such as Hamilton have done such a good job for our city. However, given the Waikato River is our largest asset and possibly one of New Zealand's biggest assets, I wonder what opportunity there may be to work with the likes of the Regional Council, Tainui, other councils and central government to secure funding to plant that land in appropriate natives to protect the health of the river or supporting our farming communities' efforts to reduce harm. Do you see this as an opportunity for Hamilton, and would you be willing to fight for it?
Well, that's an easy question for me because I am the co-chair of the Waikato River Authority. That was given a large amount of funding from the government as part of the treaty settlement for Waikato Tainui. And that money has been invested, and every year we give out millions and millions of dollars worth of funding to groups to do exactly that. Some of it's spent in the city, but it stretches from the Taupō, right from the lake, right through to Port Waikato. Hundreds and hundreds of groups. Whoever asked that question is a brilliant one. There is a website with the projects all listed. You can click on the projects and you can see how farmers and marae and small communities are working to restore the river. Actually, just one more exciting project. There's a Hamilton group called Deep Dive Division who've been diving in the river to bring up debris like cars and fridges and e-scooters and all of that. And we're looking at funding them to do to bring all the rubbish out of the river for the whole length. So that's the sort of project that we might get involved in. I hope that one is successful.
And they're on TikTok, if any of you use TikTok. And that's very cool what they put over the river.
All right.
It's cool, but it's also very
horrifying.
We'll go. Final question of the night. Yes or no on that. it was basically, given that the river is one of those assets, we wonder whether or not there's opportunity to work collaboratively with other groups such as Waikato Regional Council, Waikato Tainui, other councils, central government, etc., to secure some funding in terms of planting in that space to protect the health of our awa, while supporting our farming community's effort to reduce harm. Do you see this as an opportunity for Hamilton that you'd be willing to fight for? You see some sort of, yeah? Okay. Pretty majority there. Okay. Guess what? That, well, almost. My final word. That brings us to obviously the end of our questions. I just want to thank you both sides for a very relaxed and settled sort of environment. I appreciate there's different opinions across the aisle. Before we do close, he's going to hate me for doing this, but I do also want to acknowledge current Councillor Martin Gallagher in the back of the room. Martin, you have not only been a champion of this facility and this organisation for far longer than I've been involved with it, but you have been an absolute true warrior for the community in which you serve. Once again, well long before I arrived in it, both at local and at a central level. I had the privilege of sitting in the public gallery on Thursday to hear those speeches, and it was clear to see from the motion in the room how well you have done in that. So on behalf of Jane and I and the Pukete Neighbourhood House, we wish you well, and we just want to publicly acknowledge and thank you for the service.
These wonderful candidates who are offering themselves to work for us, because I'm just now a voter like the rest of you. I can now speak my mind. Please give them a great hand because they're doing a wonderful job.
Right. Feel free to mix and mingle. I'll just sort of pop around and just start partying up chairs, but no scones. And then, yeah, thank you to both. Good luck. Good luck with your choices. Go for it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah,